Are many of these filmmakers that come to you through Film Threat, their films have been crowdfunded?
I think crowdfunding has changed the game. Certainly, I've used crowdfunding for projects. My track record's about 50-50, you know? I've failed as much as I've succeeded, but crowdfunding has changed the game tremendously, certainly putting more power in the hands of indie filmmakers. I'd like to see that expand into bigger projects. Not just movies made for a couple $100,000, but in the millions. So it's put the power in the hands of indie filmmakers. I mean, money is as much an auteur on a film as the director, itself. That's just the reality, right? It's an influence, money or the pursuit of that. So crowdfunding has helped. The thing I look at is how are independents going to compete with the corporate filmmaking that is kind of taken over?
What if we say they won't, but those who are driven by very special stories know where to find their films? And we just accept that we may never be watching Carrie in a theater again. Unless it's...
Well, I hope that's not the case. I mean, I would look on it as Robert Rodriguez with El Mariachi, which he made famously for, it's like what? He shot it for like 7,000. I was completed for far more than that. But that film is so raw, but filled with so much passion and heart, that is the type of movie I'm talking about, is that really tiny one that kind of breaks through. I do think with the advent of, cameras that are so, affordable, right? Including our phones, right? Which can shoot in raw 4K if with a couple of apps, that combined with a little bit of crowdfunding and some ambitious casting, I really would like to see more film. I'll see a movie and I'll think, this is awesome. I don't know who's in this, and I know that while that's not going to affect someone like myself, it will affect a traditional moviegoer whose first question is who's in it, because that's also what a distributor is going to ask. And indie filmmakers would be surprised to learn that it is possible to get someone to be in your movie that's a known actor. You can pursue that. I think you would be remiss not to do that. Like if you put together, you've got a solid script and it's attracting talent. I don't just mean in front of the camera, cinematographer, other people that are interested in being involved. You have to think about who's going to be in it, and you have to kind of go down that path of getting know a lot. You'd be surprised, who's accessible via social media or via an IMDb. It's amazing when I hear the stories of how friends of mine have gotten talent to be in their film. Everything from, meeting them at a party at a film festival, to reaching out via social media, to, going through the correct pathway, which I think is generally the least successful, which is going through an agent or a manager, because what they're thinking is an agent or a manager is, am I making money from this? And usually with a first-time filmmaker, something that's a small crowd-funded project, they won't be making money. The manager or agent will not be making money. And so it's not really in their interest to pass it along to the client, because the client can only do a certain amount in a given year. I will say that if you can cast up around unknown leads, I think that that's really important. And if you can make it possible to make it convenient for the actor. I just saw a film called Too Late, a very small comedy horror film. Fred Armisen has a bit part in it, but he's in the whole movie. He was shot out in one day. So you really have to ask, and you really have to hold out, and if anything, schedule around some of your larger talent, and make sure that you at least take the time to see what's possible. There's a movie called Rent-A-Pal that's a really bizarre horror film that was put out recently by IFC. The director, John Stevenson, used Will Wheaton's in the movie, and he was shot out in just a few days, right? Like, Will Wheaton's in the whole movie, right? But for him, it was a couple days work. So you have to be creative about finding those opportunities in your story. Like, is this someone, is this something that is castable for a known person, and who should be on that list, and start going after those people sooner rather than later.